And in retrospect, it was probably the smartest and best decision I ever made in my entire time at Netflix. I was willing to put my ego aside to make the company successful. Am I the right person to go from 1 to 10 or 10 to 100? And in my case, I wasn't. Glad you're bringing it up this way, because you kind of have it wrong.
Okay, good.
Because you're implying that culture is something that I do to a company. I don't think leadership is something you get from a course or a book. If you want to be a great leader, you have to practice. You know, I've done 7 companies, 2 of them multi-billion-dollar companies. And I'm proud of that, but I'm way more proud of the fact that
today I'm thrilled to welcome a true pioneer in entrepreneurship and innovation, Marc Randolph. Marc is best known as the co-founder and the first CEO of Netflix, which he helped grow from a DVD by mail startup into the streaming giant we know today. He's founded 6 other successful companies throughout his career, bringing his wealth of experience as a mentor, investor, and advisor to countless entrepreneurs worldwide. Today we'll dive into Marc's insights on leadership during periods of rapid growth, creating cultures that drive innovation, and practical strategies for solving the complex problems that every scale-up business faces. Marc Randolph, thank you so much for joining us on The Ultimate Leader's Edge. This is so exciting for me to have you here, and I'm very humbled that we've got you here as well. But mostly I'm ecstatic to be able to talk to someone who I have met back in 2016 and have raved about in terms of some of the culture, some of the leadership things, and I'm really excited to be able to try and explore that further and talk about some of those things with you today. So thank you so much for joining us.
Paulette, the pleasure is mine. I'm more than happy. I'm glad we could make it work.
Wonderful. So I know there's been lots that that has already been spoken about Netflix and the stories to do with Reed and the carpooling. And so I love those stories, but I want to really explore and delve down into some of the other things around culture and leadership and your views and advice on problem solving. And the main thing, I guess, to start with is the Netflix Culture Code. How did that get started? What was your involvement in that? And how did you really kind of implement that into Netflix?
Well, glad you're bringing it up this way, because you kind of have it wrong.
Okay, good.
Because you're implying that culture is something that I do to a company, or that we design, and that becomes what the culture is.
Yeah.
But I completely think that culture is an organic thing.
Yeah.
What I always say is that it is not aspirational, it's observational.
Yeah.
So it isn't like we go into a conference room and put up a whiteboard and say, what should our culture be?
Yeah.
It just happens from the way that the founders treat each other. It's the way they treat their customers. It's the way they act.
Yes.
And those things imprint on the company.
Yeah.
And it's such a critical thing because, for example, Reed and I treated each other a certain way. So the first 10 employees pick that up.
Yeah.
And then the next 90 employees pick it up from the first 10. And the next 900 pick it up from the first 100.
Yeah.
And if you're careful and are watching for things, that's just how it happens. Yeah. So I'm a big believer that it was luck, if anything, that the Netflix culture became what it was. And in fact, our culture is not that different from what every other small company culture is like.
Yeah.
And you're probably familiar with the Netflix culture, but there's a couple of really interesting things about it.
Yeah.
Like, for example, you're probably familiar with their expense policy.
Yes.
Yeah, there isn't one.
There isn't one.
Right.
That's it.
Their vacation policy.
It's all about judgment.
There isn't one. Their travel policy.
Forget about it. One. Yeah, just make good decisions. Yeah.
Yeah, it's right. That is the culture. Basically, is use your best judgment.
Yeah.
But that isn't that different from what every small company has, because at the beginning, when you only have a handful of people, and they're all hand-picked, you can't possibly do a command and control leadership style.
Yes.
You just don't have time.
Yeah.
So all you can really do is take someone and say, okay, Paulette, here's what you have to get done. I'll meet you there in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I trust that you are going to get it done. Yeah. I have no idea what you're going to run into, what challenges you're going to have to overcome, what resources you're going to have to marshal, but you'll figure it out.
Yes.
But I'm counting on you to get there.
Yes.
And that's really common in an early stage company. But what happens is that as a company gets bigger, all of a sudden you get this strange thing happen where all of a sudden someone shows up and maybe they're late.
Yep.
And the CEO goes, I can't have this. I can't not know someone's not going to be here. Okay, from now on, status reports.
Yes, okay.
Which
clock in, clock out. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then or someone gets there on time, but they overspent. And so the well-meaning CEO says, okay, from now on, I pre-approve every expense over $5,000.
Yeah.
And everyone, ugh. And pretty soon what you've done is built all of these guardrails to protect you from people with bad judgment.
Yeah.
And if anything, the whole Netflix experiment was basically what happens if we build a culture for people with good judgment.
Yes.
And it's not doing it for 10 people, which is easy. It's not even doing it for 100 people, which is not that hard. It's doing it for 1,000 people, or in Netflix's case, 15,000 people. That's where culture really comes to play.
That was one of the things I wrote down that I absolutely loved, that you said, culture cannot be what you want it to be. It has to be what it is.
Yes, exactly.
Obviously, it's not aspirational, it's observational. But did you find that as you got bigger, it changed, or actually it just became a lot clearer?
No, a couple things happen. I mean, for one, is that you begin to feel pressure on what your culture is. I mean, because for example, there's that famous Netflix culture deck.
Yeah.
And people think that that's something that we wrote and then tried to make the company be that. But it's really, we did that to try and reflect what the culture already was.
Yeah.
Because we wanted someone who was joining the company to know what they were getting into.
Yeah.
But what happens is you'll have a cultural imperative.
Yeah.
And the classic one is, if you'll pardon my language, it's the no assholes rule.
Yeah.
Okay? And every company goes, oh, that's what we believe in.
Yeah.
No assholes here. We're all good people.
Yeah, no dickhead policy is another one. So
Yeah, there you go. It's very related. And it's a great policy until your top sales leader is an asshole.
Yeah.
Or
and you don't do something about it.
And you don't do something about it because you go, oh, that person is so productive, even though they annoy everybody. And that's the problem.
Yeah.
The other one is, you say, it's radical honesty is one of our things, that we never want to say something about someone they wouldn't say to their face.
Yeah.
And that begins to slip. And so what you need is someone to call you on your bad when you begin to stray.
Yes.
And actually, in the case of Netflix, it was, I guess you would call them an HR person.
Yep.
But at Netflix...
Was that Patty, or was that...
That's Patty McCord.
Yeah.
The reason that she was incredibly valuable wasn't like she's administering payroll or working on what are the benefits.
The day-to-day.
The single most powerful thing she could do was speak truth to power.
Yeah.
You know, we'd be in a meeting, and we'd all come out of the meeting, and she'd take Reed and I aside and say, you are always talking about how important it is to get everyone's opinions here, that no one's opinion is more important than someone else's.
Yeah.
Now, who did most of the talking in that meeting?
Uh-huh. So she held you to account.
Yeah, and then Reed and I kind of hang But
Got told off, yeah.
You have to be careful to make sure that you walk the walk and talk the talk. And that's a really important role, and it's what keeps that culture. So you asked, has the culture changed?
Yes.
And of course it's changed.
Yeah.
And it's changed for the first part is, as you get bigger, you begin wondering what kind of things are there because they've always been there, what kind of things can we take out?
Yes.
So most of the change has been realizing you can get rid of way more than you thought.
Yes.
Every single time you go, can we get rid of this? And one of the attorneys, the lawyers, goes, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And you go, let's just try it and see what happens.
Yeah.
You'll be sued. Let's just see what happens. And you go that direction.
You test it.
The other place it changes, though, is obviously as Netflix stops being a U.S. company, and all of a sudden begins having offices in Japan and Israel, all over the world, and there's very different, deeply held cultures there. They're not corporate cultures.
It's multicultural, right?
Yes, and you have to begin to say, how do we begin to tease apart what are the things that are truly important about this culture, and which things can we let reflect the local culture?
Yep. And I mean, we first met in 2016, and we were on the beautiful Necker Island, on Richard Branson's island, and that was the first time that I'd actually heard of the Netflix Culture Code. And I went back home and I was Googling it, And it wasn't a graphically designed, brilliant. It was just black and white, clear standards, and that really captured the essence of the DNA of the organisation.
Right.
And what I loved about it was if the standard you walk past is the standard you accept, what are those standards? It captured all of that, from the way that you operated, the 9 values, the manager keeper test, which I thought was fascinating. And I thought, what an interesting concept to go, if we went through a scenario where every 6 months or whatever the frequency was, we would actually go, who would we fight to keep if they came to resign? How did that process work? So what did that look like in the organisation? Because it looked like they won either way, the employee, whether they continued with the business or whether they didn't. What was the practicality of how that worked, the manager keeper test?
You have to start with what's the driving force between saying how important it is to have the very, very best people. Because everyone says that. But as you saw on the deck,
high performance breeds high performance.
Netflix doesn't talk about itself as a family.
No.
We're not a family.
No.
You don't fire people in your family.
Yes.
And we describe ourselves as a sports team. You've seen that. But not a little league team, not a minor league team. We are a team that plays at the highest level. And when you're playing at the highest level, if someone's not doing well at their position, you don't say, oh, but they're a good person, or they're kind of fun.
You don't put them in centre field, do you? You don't put someone who's nice in the centre row on grand final day.
Your job as the coach or the manager is to put the best people in the best positions.
Yeah.
And it's an obligation not just to try and win, although that is. It's an obligation to the fans.
Yeah.
It is. But the biggest obligation is to the other players.
Yep.
Is that if I'm going to ask you to try super hard and be really skilled and be the best person, what I can really do to support you is make sure you're surrounded by other great people.
Yeah.
That's what drives the keeper test.
Yeah.
That's what says that how important it is to really make sure that you have the very, very best people.
Yeah. And would you get the team to judge that? I know it's the manager keeper test, but how did you judge that? What was the frequency, and then what was the input that you used to go, is this person going to be the best person for that position?
Because you're looking at what that person can accomplish. When Netflix hires people, for example, we do not put in the job description what experience we want them to have.
Yeah.
We don't really care what jobs they held, what their title was. None of that's important. We're evaluating them on, here's what this person needs to accomplish.
Yes.
And that's a very different thing. And so if you can set that standard clearly, in this role, here's what I want this person to get done over the next 6, 12, 18, 24 months. It's really then not that difficult to say, are they doing it?
Yeah.
Are they accomplishing the things we need them to accomplish? Yeah. And if they're not, then you have to do something about that.
Yeah.
And what's usually the case is the person themselves recognizes they can't do it. That you think, oh my God, this is horrible. I'm telling this person they can't stay with the company.
Yeah.
And at first, of course, it's shocking and upsetting for the actual employee. But in the long run, none of us want to be doing jobs we're not good at. None of us want that constant feeling of coming to the office that they're letting people down.
Yeah, not fulfilling what they are or operating at their best. And
so it's not that tricky to really to know whether this person is someone that I would fight to keep. Because the job of a Netflix manager, there's just two things, just two. So number one is to have the right people in the right seats.
Yes.
And you probably spend most of your time as a manager on that. So it's this thing about every 6 months doing the keeper test. I'm doing it every day.
Yeah,
I may not be doing it literally every day where I write names down or something, but the job is, do I have the right people, and are they in the right places with the right skill sets to get accomplished what I've been charged for my group to get accomplished? So that's one thing. The second thing is, giving my people all the information and context that allows them to make good decisions.
Yes.
So do they have all the information they need? Do they understand what they need to get done? Do they understand what the company's trying to get done? Do they understand what their department's role is? Do they know what the competition's doing? What do they have to understand to make good decisions. And that's it. And explicitly missing is review their decisions.
Yes.
Explicitly missing is make decisions.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is, I don't know, 6 months ago, I was talking to Reed Hastings.
Yep.
And we were talking about that.
Yep.
And he says, in fact, that one of the litmus tests that he uses about does he have the right people,
Yes.
and is he giving them the right information and context, is how often does he have to make a decision?
Yeah.
And at the time, I think he said it's been 2 or 3 months
Wow.
since he had to make a decision. So all this goes into when you can really spend so much time on that, it's fairly self-evident when someone is not the right person.
Stands
there.
out.
And the needs of the business change.
Yeah.
You know, when we first started doing streaming, we have to build out the servers. It's very complicated to take all the content and make sure when someone hits a stream, it gets delivered to them.
Yeah.
And we hired some of the smartest, most incredibly talented video technology engineers, server engineers, all those things. And then maybe 3 to 6 months later, we say, this is the wrong decision.
Yeah.
We should let Amazon do this.
Yeah.
This is that whole business they're running. Let them worry about it. So now all you have these incredibly talented people who are in a job that they're not good at, and more importantly, they don't like. And what am I going to do? Say, I don't want to let you go because you're talented. No, you say business has changed.
Yeah.
It happens all the time.
Yeah. Well, that definitely with the different stages of the business as well. And we'll definitely unpick that shortly because I want to delve down into leadership. But on the hiring question, did you have any good questions, anything in your toolkit that you would use that kind of quickly let you know if someone fit those values? Because of course it's higher on attitude and fit, isn't it? It's such an important part of that. So what was the Netflix process or your process to try and understand that quickly?
First of all, it's not trying to understand it quickly. There's a couple things. First one is that you don't need to be sure you're getting it right.
Yeah.
It's impossible to know you're getting it right. You cannot tell how well someone's going to do in a role until they're doing it. So you get as close as you can, which means that these processes that go on for months and 7 or 8, people keep coming back, I think is a waste of time. Because yes, you'll guarantee you're going to get the perfect person, but you're going to go so slowly and just grueling.
Yeah.
So the first thing is we don't obsess about it. The second thing is very, very disciplined. Again, this is about what they need to accomplish. So before the interview, before I'm setting up this role, I'll say, okay, if someone needs to accomplish these things that I want them to get done, what are the components of that? And I don't know how to evaluate necessarily each of those components, but there's other people in the company who do. So this person comes in and they were meeting with 4 or 5 people.
Yeah. Different perspectives.
Those people are very, very explicit. So, for example, I'd say to the person who was doing the interviewing, this job I'm hiring for, it really has to set up this entire area of using social media to drive this. And I need you to evaluate their ability to do that.
Yeah.
And it's obviously someone who understands that really well. And they are very focused on that. They're not going to come back and go, I like that person. They think they'd fit in well here. They're not going to worry about the other things the person needs to do. They're going to come back very focused on that individual component of them being able to accomplish what they need to accomplish.
Yes.
And those 4 or 5 people will do it that way. And what that does is helps you avoid the bias of they're nice. Oh, I went to the same school.
Yeah.
Oh, we know the same people.
Yes.
It's really getting down to, can this person do the things that we're going to need them to get done?
Yeah, no, it's great. Did you find with the different expansions, so as you went into different countries and you had the different cultures, how did you, often now we have satellite offices or people working from home, how did you keep that culture alive, I guess, when you're operating across multiple different places and you don't necessarily have all those leaders observing or interacting each day?
Yeah, it's really hard. And I'm going to say I don't have a good answer. Yeah. I mean, I left Netflix well before COVID hit.
Yes,
and at the time,
it's a whole new time now, isn't it?
Yeah, so we did not have huge work from home workforce. The way that the international piece works is, remember, the role of the manager is right people empowered to make decisions.
Yes.
And that works on lots of levels. And one way that it works really well is internationally. Is that if you are clear with what an international office has to do, and generally it's going to be about either acquisition, which is unique to a market, but more importantly, content, which is going to be fairly unique to a market. And what you have to do is empower those people to solve those problems without having to come back up to the next level up and say, what should I do? Because what do I know? You're 6,000 miles away from me.
Yeah.
But that also works for culture, is you trust that the people who are managing these areas understand what the Netflix culture is and can make judgments about which idiosyncrasies a local market have are okay,
Unique,
and which ones need to be adhered to. Because we don't want, no, it's always been this way in the United States. Radical honesty, for example, is wonderful for a lot of cultures, but it's really, really hard for other cultures.
Yes, it's a difficult one to put in place. So, and it really comes back to that trust, doesn't it? And that establishment of that regular, ongoing feedback environment to really build it. But it's so powerful when you can achieve it, isn't it? So.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing that, you know, one of the things that makes the culture successful is not forcing every single person all over the world who works for Netflix to have a Silicon Valley culture. It's just trying to say, what are the really important ones here that we think are unbreakable? And what are the ones that we're willing to be flexible on?
Because I look at that culture code today and I think it's still so relevant. So I don't know if they still continue to use it, but it just captures, I think, all of those, from the freedom, from the context to the 9 values. I think it really still succinctly is something that you could almost pick up and obviously it clearly get a feel for what's going to work in that organisation or not. And so, talking about leadership, in terms of your most valuable leadership lesson, what has been some valuable leadership lessons, I guess, and I know that's a really broad term, but what have been some lessons you've learned along the way now that if you look back on, you could have told yourself as a leader, any advice to overcome some of those challenges?
Well, probably the first thing is that I'm not necessarily that great in every situation. I'm a startup person. I mean, I'm immodestly perhaps, I'm really good at getting a company started. And I'd say I'm really great as a leader for the first several hundred employees. But once it moves beyond that, I'll be the first person to say that I'm terrible at it. I don't know how to do it. The things that I'm good at don't scale that same way. And so I guess part one of leadership is recognizing what you're good at and what you're not good at, and not trying to be something you're not. The same thing with the culture piece. You know, that I laid out some of the elements of this Netflix culture, that freedom and responsibility, that radical honesty. That's not that we're a sports team, not a family. That's not for everybody, and it shouldn't be. That a lot of people will want to run their company like a family, and all power to you. And the leadership style there is going to be very different. You can't force yourself to be something you're not. So the first thing I think about leadership is have it be genuine. Second thing is that leadership is situational. That if I'm hiking and it's a nice sunny day and we're just wandering, I'll do a very collaborative leadership style. How are you feeling? Should we stop for lunch? You want to keep going? What do you think? Should we go left or right? Which works great. But then if someone falls off the cliff and breaks their femur, no, it's not. Then it's like, here's what we're doing. You do this, you do this, you do this. And it's a very directive style. And part of it is recognizing when one style is called for and when another one is called for. But I think most of leadership is setting direction. It's communicating clearly. It's delegating effectively. There's a
decision making.
A lot of elements to it.
And having the right people and
in the right seats.
In the right seats. What do you think those differences are in leadership? So we see it a lot with family businesses. We've got nearly 90% in Australia, particularly South Australia. So, you know, you have a lot of people who feel like they should take the reins, but they're not necessarily passionate about that stage of a business or good at it. And so what do you think are the different leadership skills you need as a startup, you know, where you're hustling I think you should always be hustling, but what would the differences do you think be between that startup to the more professional corporatizing kind of expansion piece, taking it to an IPO? Like, what would you say are those different stages? And who and what type of skill sets as a leader do you think you need for each of those stages?
The quick answer is I have no idea.
Yeah.
But let's hit on something which is in there, is that if you're in the startup phase, which is what I've done mostly, you have to recognize that if you are very successful and your company begins to grow and it's starting to take off, you've got to recognize that you may not be the right person to bring it to the next level.
Yeah.
And in fact, if you look at the tech industry, you know, which I'm familiar with, you can probably count on the fingers of two hands the number of people who start a company and are still the most effective leader of that company when it's 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 employees. Extremely rare to have that combination of skill sets. And it's a very natural evolution. Like, you know, when I started the Netflix thing, you started with a dozen people, 20 people, and these people are killing it. They are working so hard, and they'll do anything you ask, and they're incredible generalists. They can do a lot of different things. And you get to a point where you're big enough and successful enough that you say, you know, to your original head of marketing, you're not the right person for what we need now.
Yep.
You're a generalist, and we're ready for a specialist.
Yep.
And that's, as a leader, that's the most incredibly difficult thing to do, is tell someone that all the skills that you use so effectively to get us from 0 to 1 are not the skills we need to go from 1 to 10. And I'm going to bring in someone who could bring us from 1 to 10. That's such a critical thing to have to be able to do. But you occasionally have to turn that same lens on yourself and say, I had the skills to bring it from 0 to 1. Am I the right person to go from 1 to 10 or 10 to 100? And in my case, I wasn't. And it was painful, but
painful.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, yeah. And looking at the lessons learnt around a perspective of, we often see the salesperson promoted into a leadership role, and you know, we will see sometimes that wrong person aspire to be a leader, and it's a real choice to be a leader. I think it's a different skill set. It's things that they need. What is the terrible leadership qualities that you've seen and that you think people should be looking for? Because I think it's sometimes again, we want to see what makes a great leader, but it's also important to see what doesn't, because I think they also help us really, really hone or understand those kind of attributes of choice. Do you want to be a leader, and is that a role that you should be? And similarly, what are those traits that you think make a terrible leader that you should definitely also look out for to not put people in those leadership roles?
Probably the most salient thing is that being a great leader is a different skill set than being a great individual contributor.
Yes.
And one of the worst things you can do is have part of your culture be that one is valued more than the other.
Yeah.
Netflix and all the companies that I've done, you have people who love what they do, largely in the engineering culture. Being an engineering leader, you know, a leader of coders versus coding, it's like completely different skill set, almost completely unrelated. Yeah. And to feel that if you want to move up in the company, you have to go from being individual to being, and it just doesn't happen. But the single biggest, you know, error that you can make is when you're transitioning from being a contributor to a leader, or even moving a leader from a small team to a big team, is recognizing you've got to leave people alone. I mean, so many times people think,
the opposite, micromanagement.
I can do it better than you, and so I'm going to do it.
Yes.
But then it doesn't, you lose the scale. And the whole trick is to be able to keep leveling yourself up, and so that you can have a team who collectively do more than you could ever do as an individual. And I see that over and over and over again. You have to, being a great leader is letting go.
And what about the organization that books the one-day leadership course, thinking they're going to teach leadership and that's going to be the solution to building great leaders? What did you do, and what were the kinds of things you did to really develop the leaders at Netflix?
I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't think leadership is something you get from a course or a book. It's as ludicrous as like saying, I've read all kinds of books about golf, so now I know how to play golf. No, you have to go out and hit the ball, and you have to do it over and over and over again. Just knowing intellectually what to do is not it. The same with leadership. I mean, I was really fortunate that when I was 14 years old, my parents packed me off on my summer vacation to a place in the mountains in the United States, in Wyoming, to the National Outdoor Leadership School, which sounds like a place you learn leadership, and you do, but not in the way you'd suspect. What it is basically is they drop us off at the beginning of a trail, and off we go, and within the first 5 minutes they go, okay, Paulette, you're leader of the day. And all of a sudden, this 14-year-old kid has to begin making decisions about, when do we take a break? How long are these breaks? Do I go left or right at the trailhead? What pace do I take? And of course, there are instructors who are hiking along behind it. And at the end of the day, they'll coach you in how you did. And you're learning leadership in a concrete way. You're making real decisions that have real consequences that you're finding out about, you know, only a few hours after you make them.
Immediate feedback on it.
And you're doing, getting feedback. And you're doing that when you're 14 years old. And over the course of the course, for 30 days long, you're given more and more and more responsibility. And of course, I did this as a student for several years. Then I became an instructor. Then I became a course leader. And all of these things were teaching me these skills about how do I manage a group to achieve an objective. How do I make decisions with clarity and confidence, even if I may not be that clear or confident myself? How do I ensure that I keep a team together, evaluate strengths and weaknesses? I mean, all the exact same things that you do in a real company. And even in a non-outdoor scenario, when I was in university, you know, there was no outing club, and I started an outing club. There was no humor magazine, started a humor magazine. And the skills of getting those things going, enlisting people to help you when you can't pay them, being able to raise money from the school government to fund what you're doing, going in and asking for money, putting a presentation together. I learned leadership by doing it starting when I was very young. And I think if you want to be a great leader, you have to practice. You have to find these opportunities to do it, where you can little by little develop the skills, make the mistakes, learn what style you have that works. And the best time to start that is now.
That's brilliant. And what about, I guess, with a lot of family businesses, you might have the person who thinks that they should get the job because they're the son or the daughter or the next in line, not really something that they're good at, something that they're passionate at, or something that they are going to be able to deliver any of those outcomes, but it's just really their title. What's kind of advice that you say to people who might be in those roles? What would you be saying to them as leaders, and if you were advising the company, what's some of the things that you would say around making that decision of who do they appoint as their CEO?
So probably the best way to answer the question is to talk about what happened to me.
I was going to say with Reed.
At Netflix. When I started the company, Reed was my angel investor, but he was not there. I mean, I was the CEO, I was running the company, he started it up, and Reed was the chair of the board and larger stockholder because he had put the money in. And we got to a point, maybe a year more than a year in, when all of a sudden Reed popped his head in my office and said, "We have to talk." Not a good sign.
No, never a good sign.
And basically what he was going to saying was he was concerned about my leadership. He
Tough
said,
pill to take.
"Oh, absolutely." The thing is, the cultural thing for Reed and I was this honesty thing. That's what had attracted us to each other from the very beginning. So when he was saying there were some things he was concerned about, I took it at face value. I didn't think he had an ulterior motive or a hidden agenda. He was genuinely concerned. And quite frankly, when he was telling me these things he was concerned about, I thought he was going to fire me because he had more stock than I did, and he was chair of the board. But what he was really saying is he wanted to join the company full time and have us run the company together. That he would come in as CEO, I would become president, and off we go. And it was brutal. Because I had this dream of
It was your
running
baby. It was
a
your
big
baby.
running a successful company. But what it really was two different dreams. There was the dream of running it and being a successful CEO, and the dream of it being a successful company.
Yeah.
And
Really
they were
important
separate dreams. And the second dream, the successful company one, wasn't just my dream. My employees' dreams. It was my investors' dream.
Yes.
And so you ask yourself, if I really care about this company, am I willing to surrender one dream to make the other one come true? And I'm not saying this was an easy, instantaneous decision. It took a while, but I eventually came around to the fact that I couldn't deny that it would be way better with the two of us doing it together. And in retrospect, it was probably the smartest and best decision I ever made in my entire time at Netflix, is making room for Reed to come in and stepping aside as CEO so he could be the CEO. It was the renaissance at Netflix from there. I mean, almost all the major decisions that we made that set the company up for long-term success happened during those years we did it together. And so it really said that I was willing to put my ego aside to make the company successful. And I'll give you one more example, which is the same sort of thing. So fast forward 5 or 6 more years, Netflix now is successful. We figured out the business model which was going to work for us. We had our IPO. We had resources. We could hire these incredibly talented people. And I kind of came gradually to this realization that I still loved Netflix. I mean, it was my baby. But I no longer really loved what I was doing. And more importantly, I had to acknowledge I wasn't that good at it. We now had big company problems. And I'm a small company guy. And I kind of realized that, success is not just monetary success or how big your title is. Success is, do you get to spend your day doing things that you enjoy and that you're good
passionate about. And you can, I think that's such an important thing for people to consider right now, because if you're doing what you love, it becomes a lot easier, doesn't it? A lot more enjoyable. It's when you're doing something that you don't know what you do that you just feel overwhelmed and out of control.
It goes way back to the beginning of our conversation when I'm saying that when you have to sit someone down and say, Paulette, I think, you're not the right person for the next stage of the company. It's not being mean. It's being honest. And the person usually feels a sense of relief that they're not continuing to do something that they're not good at and don't like. Based on that feeling, I decided to leave the company. I left on great terms. I'm still friends with everybody. Reed, for the next 15 years, ran that company and loved it, loved every minute of it, because that was what made him whole. I then went back to I started another company after Netflix. I've had a chance to work with scores of other early stage companies because that's what makes me whole. I did not need to be a big exec in a big public company. What's the point? I'm the luckiest person in the world because I get to spend my days doing the things that I'm good at and that I love. And I'll be the first to acknowledge that family dynamics are brutal, that you have things to consider that go way beyond am I happy. It's really, really complicated. But fundamentally, you have to, at the end, live a life where you feel some sense of fulfillment in doing the things that you enjoy.
And it's okay to ask yourself that question, isn't it? Because you still, in that instance, ended up with a win-win. Talking a little bit about problem solving, decision making, really important attributes of leadership. But one of the other, so many things when we met for the first time that I loved, but particularly one of the concepts I loved was how simple the tin of paint concept was. I thought it was genius, to take an idea from a pick and pack video process to a multi-streaming platform by using a simple concept that you introduced to the team called the tin of paint. And since we use that in our business, which is what are the tins of paint in our processes, what's the tins of paint that we've got, love to hear a bit more about that. Talk to me about the tin of paint process, how you used it, and how you came up with it, I guess.
So I guess I'll try and simplify something, which is we could spend hours talking about this. But the first thing is that one of the biggest myths about startups, about early stage companies, is that there's this epiphany moment. Yes. That an idea comes to you fully formed, instantly and obviously correct, and that is not how it works. Everyone thinks that if I just have a good idea, we'll win. And I've concluded after all my 40 years as an entrepreneur, there is no such thing as a good idea. And I hope that you don't do, brainstorming sessions, where everyone gets in a room and you go, okay, here's the ground rules. Number one, no such thing as a bad idea. And they go, oh, bullshit. They're all bad ideas. But the reason it's important is you realize that you can't just say, oh, it's a great idea. You have to have the capacity to come up with hundreds of ideas, because you never know which is the one that's going to be the one that transforms the business. And once you realize that, you realize the skill set is not how can I come up with a great idea, it's how can I figure out a system and a process and a culture to try as many bad ideas as I possibly can. And if you want to think about it this way, Netflix was incredibly good at trying lots of bad ideas. And if you can try a lot of things, eventually you stumble on one that works. And being able to come up with all these ideas needs a methodology, and our methodology was basically looking for pain, which is the tin of pain.
Points of pain,
It's like looking at something where I had a summer job when I was in university as a painter. And back then when you bought paint, it came in a paint can, if you can imagine that. And 40 years later, it's still on the stupid paint can.
I know.
And it's not because they figured out this is the ultimate best way to deliver paint. It's just because no one's really tried something different. But it's so painful. And usually if you just look at this and you begin going, why isn't it sold in this kind of container? Why not this one? Why isn't there a stirrer in the bottom? Why isn't
like a
the
laundry detergent pourer,
aftermarket lid? And, but you realize as soon as you begin to look at something and go, how flawed this is, almost without trying, ideas pop into your head. And it's that looking for pain, which is training yourself to see the world as an imperfect place. And not solving the world's problems. What are the things in your business? What are the things in your customers' businesses that aren't going smoothly? And once you just look at them clearly and ask yourself, why is it like that? Boom, all of a sudden the idea comes. And then that's another bad idea to try.
And test quickly. Decision making, such an important skill. How do you work out what's important to focus on and prioritize versus the other stuff?
The reality of almost any business scenario is that you have more things broken than you have the resources to fix. You're always constrained by how much money you have. You're constrained by how many people you have. You're constrained by how much talent you have. And the mistake that a lot of leaders make is they spread it thin. They take all the resources and they spread it evenly over the 100 problems. What a great leader does is picks 2 or 3 of the problems and takes all the resources and focuses them on those 3. And that begs the question, how do you know which 3 to do? But that's the skill to develop. It's triage. And triage, as you probably know, World War I, France, looking at all the people who are injured on the battlefield and say, I don't have the capacity to help them all. We're going to divide it into 3 parts. People who are so badly injured that no matter what I do, they're going to die. There's the people who are only injured in a minor way, that even if I don't do anything, they're going to live.
Yeah.
There's a group in the middle that my intervention will make the difference between life and death. And I'm going to ignore the screams of these injured. I'm going to ignore the screams of these. I'm going to focus on them. Yeah. And that's triage in a business. And it's figuring out what those things are, and then which is this sense of intuition about what are the 2 or 3 things that if I get them right, everything else will go away. Then having the discipline to stay focused on them when everything else appears to be going wrong. That's how you get things accomplished. That is how you make progress, even when you're grossly under-resourced. Really, really hard skill. Focus, focus, focus.
That was my next question, was how do you stay focused? So, you know, making it and prioritising, triaging where you should be spending your time. But what's some tips, I guess, that you use to stay focused?
It comes fairly naturally to me now, so I'm not sure that
Good at saying no to things, and which ones say yes to.
Absolutely. I'm very, very comfortable with things being broken. I'm very, very comfortable with things being messy. And because of that, I'm fine picking the ones that I'm going to work on and ignoring the rest. And some of it's fairly obvious. I mean, if you're doing a startup and you focus on the product, my accounts payable system can be terrible. My customer service can be terrible. Pardon me, my HR systems can be terrible. But because that's not going to sink me. If I don't get the product right, I'm dead. So I'm going to stay focused on that, even though human nature is to want to get everything right. So I don't know what the tips to give people, except to say relax, thrive in the chaos, or acknowledge that you don't want to be in that kind of business. In which case you go to work for Norman Waterhouse over here with a couple thousand employees, where your job is you take a piece of paper out, whatever they do. Piece of paper out, and you staple it, you stamp it, and you put it in this pile. At the end of the day, you go home, and I go, look, this is empty, and this is full. Success. You do not want to. That's not a startup. That's not a rapidly growing, changing business.
Last kind of question is around rhythms and routines and discipline that comes with that. Did you have any, or do you have any regular rhythms, routines that you have found successful that help with all of those things? Decision making, prioritizing, making sure you're spending time. We haven't spoken about one of the most important people in this scenario, Lorraine, but making sure that you're putting time in the right spots. What processes do you use to, I guess, make sure that you're structuring your week with the important things?
I'll give you the really trivial one first, and then I'll give you the deeper one. So
Go.
Give me time. So the one tip that I do is I do my to-do list longhand. I do it on a yellow pad. And I have 3 columns, and I write down everything there. And I write everything down there not because I want to cross it all off, but because I can consciously ignore it.
Okay.
Notice I look at all the things on there.
And what's not important, is it?
Yeah, and most of it's not important. But it
gets out of your head.
It gets it out of my head. It prevents that gnawing feeling, oh man, there's something that I'm not getting done.
That's a good point.
It prevents me from lying awake at night saying, oh gosh, no, I've acknowledged what it is.
And
I've acknowledged it's not a priority. I've acknowledged I am consciously not doing it. And I do have the upper left-hand corner is 4 things, 5 things. This is what I need to get done. It's a very, very good way to keep yourself relaxed when you're in this environment.
Kind of purge your thoughts down.
Yes.
And then focus on where you need to be.
Anything pops in my head, what I have to do, gets written down. And then, depending how busy it is, every night I'll rewrite it. At least every weekend I'll rewrite it.
So what's the 3 columns you had with the immediate things?
So it's priority, which is 5, no more than 4 or 5 things, and then it's primary and secondary. And the secondary gets ignored for the most part, but at least it can be, and things move around. So anyway, it's that kind of system, but it's writing things, it's recording everything you conceivably need to do, and for the point of ignoring it, not the point of doing it. So let's talk about the bigger one, which is, I've been doing this for a long time. Been doing it for 40 years and more. And it's hard. It's non-structured. It's not regular hours. It's huge ebbs and flows of crises and boredom. And so from the very beginning, I've kind of said to myself that I have to do this for the long term. I have to have a balance in my life. And it kind of came to a head when I was just about turning 30. And at the time, I was working on a startup, and I was working all the time. I mean, 7 days a week, staying up late, and not because I had a slave driver of a boss, but because I loved what I was doing.
Yeah, obsession.
But what I realized was two things. Is one, Lorraine, now my wife, who you've met, who I was then living with.
Amazing.
She was obviously not too keen on this situation.
Lifestyle.
Yeah. And you know, maybe in some subtle ways let me know that this was not necessarily the foundation for a long-term relationship. And I kind of said to myself, well, I have to get this right. I can't be this person. And the second thing I had is that I'm an outdoors person. That's what makes me emotional, fills my heart, is being out and going backcountry skiing or mountain biking or kayaking, and things that you can't do during a lunch break or do in an afternoon. And I said, if I want to have that in my life, if I want to have my girlfriend in my life, I've got to have some balance here. And I began structuring my life that was the priority. And just to give you a quick example, this is a famous example, I guess. I had this thing, which is every Tuesday, without exception.
It's date night.
Date night. 5 o'clock p.m. I'm out. Lorraine gets a sitter. We had little kids out, and we spent time together. And it doesn't mean that wasn't hard. There's crises. You know, people have to talk. But I said, listen, if we're going to have a crisis, we're wrapping it up at 5 on Tuesday.
It's disciplined.
You want to talk to me? We're talking on the way to the car. And little by little, remember, culture is observational, that people begin realizing that all this talk about balance is not just BS, that it's
practice from
real. And I began carving times out to get out and do the backcountry things that I know I needed to make me whole. And I've worked really, really hard. It's not easy, because just being in the startup world and being able to have that kind of balance in your life is really probably what I'm most proud of. I've done 7 companies, and 2 of them multi-billion-dollar companies, and I'm proud of that. But I'm way more proud of the fact that I was able to do all that while staying married to the same woman.
An amazing family.
Yep, and having kids grow up who know me, best I can tell, like me.
Yeah.
That I've gotten a chance to still surf and mountain bike and backcountry ski and kayak and all those things. That is what I'm proud of, because that was really, really, really hard.
Oh, it's amazing. You've answered my last question about what you're most proud of. Is there any questions that you wish that you haven't been asked, that you wish that you had been asked, that you could cover to really cover some of your journey or the essence to finish us off?
Everything has been asked. So by now, I have no idea what the unknown question is. In fact, but what I will say is that most of the time when I speak with people, we don't get a chance to spend this much time on culture.
Yes.
And maybe was it Marc Randolph who said it? You know, that culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Yes.
It is. It's such an incredibly important thing to get right.
Yes.
But remember, getting right doesn't mean designing it. It means being true to it.
Paying attention to it. Well, I think that's probably a perfect way to end.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. I'm incredibly humbled. I can't actually wait to spend a couple of days with you and your guests. I'm very aware and grateful that you're here in your vacation time, spending time with us. But it's really, truly been an honour. And to unpack some of those things, there's been some real pearls there that I think everyone's really going to appreciate. So thank you so much.
My pleasure, Paulette. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.